Welcome everyone to the 2018 Voices Conference. I'm really excited about this session. We are meeting with Preeti Priyandarshini. I hope I pronounced your name close. Yes. She is at VMware in Bangalore, India, and she's going to be talking about her journey as an intrapreneur and an entrepreneur. Intrapreneur, for those of you who are not aware, are people that innovate within companies. And it's a really important role, one that often tech companies in particular are keen on fostering because they want continuous innovation in their own companies, and they don't want to have to always be acquiring new companies to get that kind of innovation. So it's a process that a number of companies want to do but often struggle with. So I look forward to hearing Preeti's presentation. And a couple of things, we have a chat window, so I will launch that chat window in a minute, and feel free to introduce yourselves and say where you're from. And also this is where we will answer questions. So at the end, when she's ready for questions, I'll be keeping an eye on those and be prepared to ask her the questions that you've asked throughout the presentation, or you can even come on live audio and ask the question yourself. So with that, I will turn it over to Preeti.
Thank you, Diana. So welcome everyone to the Global Tech Women Conference. I'm very happy to be part of this conference. And thanks, Diana, for inviting me. So today in my session, I'm going to share my experience going through the entrepreneurship and the intrapreneurship. So in short, I have enjoyed both, right? Both are challenging, rewarding, and the core values, right, for being a successful entrepreneur or intrapreneur are very similar, right? There are certain ways like how you need to execute in both of these environments that may lead to some differences. But today I'm going to talk about the core values, which is important for both kind of the world, right? So both are but hard roads. Nothing is simple, right? But if you have a constant passion, right? If you have a risk-taking ability, if you have a vision, if you have a objective and aim in your mind, you will definitely be successful in both of the world. So moving on to the next slide, Jenna. Yeah, so this is my short bio, right? So you'll see that I have over 2 decades of experience as an entrepreneur and intrapreneur. So currently I'm working with VMware as a staff program manager. I'm managing the corporate initiative, which is called Interop as a release criteria. So as you know, VMware is in virtualizations and providing a public and the private cloud, right? So my BU, right, they deliver the SDDC, which is called Software Defined Data Center as a Service, right? So we do our interop testing, interoperability, and the coexistence testing of the different products of the VMware, right? So I work with all the business unit of VMware to make sure that the products as SDDC as a service is successfully going to the market. So that's my current role. Before VMware, I worked with Yahoo, where I have managed the product delivery of the cloud computing and Hadoop. So Hadoop, as you know, it's an open source, right? So it has its own challenges. And Hadoop now, I was working with Yahoo in 2008, right? That was very nascent stage of Hadoop, right? We are working on Hadoop version 18 and 20. Now, it's like 0.20, right? So now we have, I think, Hadoop 2.0 or something, and the ecosystem has grown a lot, right? So that gives us very different experience working with the open source community. And then later I moved to Yahoo Media Group, where I manage the global delivery of different media products, which is Yahoo Games, Lifestyle, Shine, and Yahoo Finance, and all those products. I have a prior experience of working with the service company and also the product companies. Service company, I have worked with NIT Technologies, where I was the project head for German railway projects, right? So you will see that I have a lot of different kind of experience in multiple domain, different geography, right? Different companies in my intrapreneurship journey. Now, coming back to entrepreneurship, right? I was the founder director of a startup called eManaged Law, right? Where we developed the distributed applications for Mississippi codes. So we developed a suite of multiple products, right, where it does electronic filing. So there is a portal for the filing party, portal for court admin, court department, court judges, right, and finally it goes to the court information system, right, where you have a multiple different kind of reportings for the public view and all. So that was one startup where I worked for 5 years, starting from the scratch, building the team and getting the product out into the Mississippi courts. It's currently it's live and it's running from last 10 years. And later, if you see that currently I'm attached to multiple startup, but this is the main startup, which is called eManage Health, right? So I'm spending some time over the weekend and whenever I get time, right, to be as a chief mentor and the advisor for the team there. So we have around 20 people team there, right? So I help them to understand the market, understand the requirements, how they should drive their roadmap, and how the whole journey of a startup has to go through, right? So that's currently involved with. Here I have added my passion, which is I'm a marathon runner, right? So I'll talk about few of those core values as well, because if you see the entrepreneur or the entrepreneurship journey, you can compare that as a marathon runner, not a sprint runner, right? So I'll talk about some of the core values, right, which you can relate to from the marathon runner's journey. So moving on to the next slide. So this is the short agenda. I'll go through the basics of entrepreneurship and the intrapreneurship, what are the similarity, differences, and the core values. And then I will relate my experience to those core values. And then at the end, I'll talk about how you can relate entrepreneurship or the entrepreneurship journey with a marathon runner, right? And finally, I'll take the question answers and the feedback. So moving on to the basic of entrepreneurship, right? So what is entrepreneurship? So you can see that entrepreneurship is, they are the person who sets up the business, who takes a financial risk in the hope of the profit, right? So they are the initiator, they are the challenger, they are the driver, right? Someone who creates something new, either an initiative or a business or a company, right? They are the owner of their own destiny. So you will see that they blow up a balloon in the outer space. That means there is open world to you, right? To see that you have come up with some ideas and you have to take it to the market, and the whole world is with you, right? So there's no resistance, but no resource either, right? You have to be very conservative what you are going to invest in, right? And you have to always take a calculated risk, because your whole, not even just financial, your career is at stake, right, to be successful in that journey. Now, if you see the entrepreneurship, right, entrepreneurship is an entrepreneur within a company, right? So you work in the purview of a company, right? So you are blowing up a balloon deep under the water, right? So you have plenty of resources, right? You have avenues given by your company, but there is a high organization pressure, right? So you will see that here you will be working with large number of stakeholders, right? You need to have a buy-in from the stakeholders. You need to have a proper pitching approach, right? How you pitch your ideas. So you have to work on your top-down approach and the bottom-up approach, right, to make sure that you have buy-in at all levels. So I'll talk about these the pitching ideas in the later slides. So moving on to the next one. So this is the comparison, right? Either you want the suits or sneakers, or you want both. So now you will see that in one's lifetime, people choose to do both, right? So we should always focus not on the title per se, but what are the different core values, right, which we need it in our personality and the mindset for accommodating both in your organization. Now, if you see all the organization, right, they look for the people with entrepreneur mindset, right, so that they can take the ownership of something and they can drive it on their own, right, with the help of the buying at different levels. Right, so you will see that the environment where you are, right, that may lead to some challenges and you have to find a way out. There are different strategy to deal with that, but the DNA and the core values for both are still the same. And in one's career right now, if you have crossed 20 years of experience or more than that, right, you will always get into a situation where you have to work on both, and it's always advisable to work as an entrepreneur or the intrapreneur, right, in your career, so that you can see both the worlds and you can use your learning in both the worlds, right? That's very important. Moving on to the next slide. So these are the 4 core competencies, right, for entrepreneur or entrepreneurship, right? So first one, if you see, it's a blazing the new trails or constant hunger for making things better, right? So to do something which has never been done before. This is one thing where you blaze in a new trails about believing in yourself, your mission, and inspiring others to join you in the journey. Right? When you start with something new, you may be alone, but you have to gain confidence from others, and you have to take others in your journey with you, right? That's very important. And doing things differently. Sometimes you may not come up with the very new ideas, but you have a hunger to make things better, right? Make things simpler, right? Make things more effective for your customer or your or the society at large, right? So you have to take this as a journey with the long-term vision and the short-term goals, right? So you have to always think about how you can even do better than this, right? So that's one very, very core important qualities. Second one, if you see, it is how do you balance the strong vision with the willingness to embrace change, right? Because you will see that things are getting changed a lot, right? It's a very, very dynamic environment, not into the entrepreneurship career, but in the intrapreneurship career as well. You will see all companies are going through a very, very dynamic change, right? They have to always up to the market and be very competitive, right? In whatever domain they are in. Right. So it's very important that how you balance your vision with the willingness to embrace change, the ability to listen, whether it's to be the opinion of a customer or the employees, it's very integral part of your success. Right. So you must have the confidence to make your own choice, but still it's incredibly important not to become detached from the people whose needs you are trying to meet. Right. So you have to work very closely with the customers, with the society at large, to make sure that whatever you are building, right, it meets to their requirement, and you should always embrace the change coming along. The third very important point is people-oriented, partnership, team, community, right? So as you know, right, nobody can survive alone, right? So you have to work with your team. You make sure that you have team, you have a trust from your team, and how you grow as a team, right? It's not an individual growth, right? It's a growth of a team, and how you can motivate others to be with you, right? And you need to always open for it, listening to them, always do a retrospective, and always you need to enhance, right, the capability of your team and capability of you and your team, right? That's important. Then the last thing is the perseverance, bravery, and the calculated risk, right? So people say that entrepreneurs are the risk takers, but I'll say that they are not the risk takers, they are the calculated risk takers, right? Because their stake, their whole thing are at stake, their financial, their career are at stake, right? So you have to always take the calculated risk. Every decision you make in the business world has some sort of risk attached. The key to be successful in the long run is taking calculated risk that minimize the negatives and that will maximize the positive outcomes. But you have to take risk, right? If you see my entrepreneurship journey, right, when I started with as a founder company for a startup, eManage Law, right, I was having only 10 years of industry experience, right? But I took it as a challenge because that was a very new domain to me, and it's very challenging for me, right, to set up the whole team and take these projects and work on it, right? So you have to take calculated risk sometime to grow in your career. Right? So these are the 4 competency which is very important in the both worlds. Moving on to the next slide. So these are my experience, right? So if you see my entrepreneurship journey, I led the IT startup, which I was talking about, where we developed and implemented the distributed application, which is called Court Information System. It's a suite of 7 products and which has been installed in 63 courts of Mississippi, right? So this was the first time ever developed, right? So when we started working on it, right? I was in London that time when I got this opportunity from eManage Law, which is in Irvine in US, right? So we were having a discussion that's going to be very, very new to us, right? So how we are going to understand their requirements, their terminologies and all, right? So then we had a workshop there. We worked with the lawyers, the judges, right? And we understood first what is this domain, what are the terminology they use, what they currently work, what is their workflows, right? How do they work? And then you have to build your process, how you're going to work with this kind of customers, right? So we used to have a very close working with them, right? Understanding their requirements and developing something and showing it back to them and doing the reverse presentations to them so that we gain a confidence from this customer, right? So it is like a kind of change in all respect, not just the work environment, the domain which we selected, right? The customers were different, right? The whole environment was different. And then setting up a new team and training them and getting them alone, getting them along with us, right? And developing this system and running this system, getting into deployed in all the 63 codes. It was a huge task, right? But we took it as a challenge and we did it successfully. That's not alone, but you have to build a team to get through that, right? The second startup which you see, the currently which I'm involved, right? That's a very, very basic startup, right? What it does is it created a platform to connect the patients and the doctors, right? So it has a complete patient registration to start with, and then end-to-end paperless consultations into their platform, right? So this is very, very basic system which can be used by any specialization of the doctors in any of the country, right? And it can be used for different kind of doctors as well, homeopathic, Ayurvedic. So they have a EMR module, right? Which, and they have different kind of visits based on the different kind of the specialization, right? So this is the company which is solving the very basic problem, right? And there we have a huge scope to go further, right? So you will see that if you're working on the basic and fundamental problem of a huge customer base, right? So you don't need to think about that you are going to be the first mover. That's fine. You may have some competitors, right? So you have to analyze the competitor. You have to analyze the base of that competitor, and you have to select your own market segment. You have to have some uniqueness in your way of doing stuff, right? And you have to get started with it. And if you are solving a basic problem, you will always have a huge scope to go further, right? So that's something which we are currently working on. So now next slide. So now coming back to my entrepreneurship journey, right? So entrepreneurship journey where I have worked with the multiple companies. So here the first I will talk about my Yahoo stint, right? When I joined Yahoo, I joined a group called Cloud Computing, who are working on Hadoop, which is open source, right? So we started working on multiple products. I was managing the programs of MapReduce, Scheduler, and a lot of different products we developed, which was used internally by the different Yahoo groups. But I didn't stop there, right? So because this is the open source, there are committers from different companies, right? There are people from different colleges, the academics, who are contributing to this great cause, right? So I got involved in organizing the Hadoop user group within Yahoo and the Hadoop Summit, which was the Pan-India Summit, right? So where you get the opportunity, right, to talk about your stuff and to link with your community, right, and grow bigger, right, in terms of your career and in terms of the company. So that's why you have to expand your company. It doesn't matter whether you work for a company, you need to have entrepreneurship skills in your set, the core values in your set, and you have to always think that what I am doing now, how I can expand those boundaries in a span of time, right? And there you will see that I started working on the university relations program also to evangelize Hadoop in the research community. So these were not the roadmap given by the company. This was my interest area, right, to take the whole program, what we are doing it there, to the next level, right? So this is very, very important. Second thing is pitching co-ownership. when you work on any program, right, you are part of one business unit and you are driving something, then you have to always think about how I can pitch in this idea to the other BUs, how I can make this program bigger within our own company and then to the society at large, right? So if you see this, the pitching idea is very important, right? Where you see that there has to be a top down and the bottom up approach. Top down means you need to have a buy-in from your exits level, right? How this all the other views going to support in your program. And then bottom up, it talks about the micro level, right? How you can show the proof of succeeding, right, in your own ventures. So that way you need to have a buy-in at your level within your peer group, right? And you need to have a buy-in from the execs from the top down, right? So that's a pitching co-ownership. So if you see this, the intra program, which I'm driving currently, right? This started as a short program within one BU, which is called Cloud Management Business Unit. And there are multiple products there. So I was driving this inside one business unit as part of the cloud management products. Then we extended that to do the interop with the other products, right? With the other products like the compute area products, the networking products, the storage products. And now it has become the SDDC as a service as a whole stack, right? Where I'm working with all the business unit of SDDC, which is Software Defined Data Center, and driving this as a corporate initiative. So you can see that this has become like a very big now. It has become like a corporate initiative. Also, we started calling out our partners to come and test the service and see how their solutions are working on top of our services, right? So that way we extended our programs. So this is very important, right? And for that, you need a pitching your ideas and you need a buy-in from all the levels, right? That's very important. And the third thing I like to call out, you have to be a finisher, right? Whatever you are doing, you have to understand what value you are going to bring in. And you have to always think about the outcomes, right? Outcomes not from your perspective, but from the customer perspective. What is that other side is going to get in, right, from this initiative? So you have to always think about the value proposition and be a finisher. You have to get to that outcome. For that, whatever it takes, you are going to do that, right? That's very important. So this is the summary of my entrepreneurship journey. Sorry about that. And my last slide, right, where I was talking about the core qualities, right, from the marathon runner. Right. So if you see that all these core qualities, the 4 core qualities which I talked about, right, that's important to be a successful entrepreneur or the entrepreneur. And this is very true for any marathon runner, right? If you see a journey of a marathon runner, if I tell you my journey, right, I started doing, I was always in fitness, but not in running. So from 2014, now it is 4 years, I'm in marathon running, right? But this journey is not, it's not that simple, right? It took 4 years, right, to get to this stage. So it's the consistency which is very, very important, right? So now you will see that I had a goal for each month, right? From the last 4 years, right? Every month, how I want to gain to that. So you need to have your vision where you want to get it, and you need to have your short-term goals. So you have to always be passionate and the goal-oriented, which is very important, right, for the marathon runners. Second thing is mental and physical health, right? Starting a company or taking a program to the next level, it requires a lot of dedications and working hours to get to that, right? So it's very important that you are mentally fit and physically fit, right? The third thing you will see, the similarity is the confidence and the convictions, right? By experience, you will learn that following your training program for sure will bring you to your goal, right? And same is true for the entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is a journey, right? Every day you have to judge yourself and see where you want to get into, what you have done before. You have to retrospect to that and get to the next thing, right? So by experience, you will get to know that the path is not simple, but you have to set the goal and just do it, right? The last thing is the keeping the right pace, right? A runner will experience very soon what is the right pace, right, to get to that. right? You don't need to injure yourself and you don't need to get into the fast space, right? So you have to get to the consistent space where you can scale it, right? And you can do it for a long time. So keeping the right pace and doing the foundation correctly of your business will pay off in a positive way. And that's very true for the marathon runner, right? So you will see that now if you see different companies, right, recruiters, they will see that they are hiring a lot of marathon runners, right? So you will see that how these core values relate to it and how this is very important, whether you are entrepreneur or you are working within a company, right? So with that, I will close my sessions, and I'd like to hear if you have any questions or any feedback.
All right, so we're opening the floor. If you have any questions, you can feel free to turn on your audio. I muted everyone as they came on. So you can do that by selecting the little microphone on the bottom left of your screen, or you can use the chat window in order to do that. So while people are thinking about their questions, I have one question for you. So, you know, inevitably in marathons, you have setbacks, things happen, and maybe you don't reach that monthly goal that you've tried to go after. Can you give us an example of something that's happened to you on your either entrepreneur or intrapreneur journey that didn't quite work out as you expected, and what were some of the ways that you overcame that?
Right. It always happens, right? If you see my entrepreneurship journey, right, driving this program in VMware, right? When we started with this program and trying to extend it for the multiple BUs, right, different BUs, so we are not getting much time from them, right? So getting their time, getting them to be a partner with our program was very, very challenging because they all have their roadmap defined, they all have their releases, right? They all have their programs to drive with, right? So it was very frustrating in the first the plug fest. We used to call it a plug fest that time, right? That's the term which has come from Microsoft, where you the people from different views sit together and they run the workflows together in a room, right? It is kind of war room situation. So the first Blockfest when we started, it was not a success, right? It was kind of failure where we could not get a representative from different BU to participate, right? Because of multiple regions. But we took it as a challenge. That's fine. Maybe we got a participation from one or two BUs, right? We could not test the complete workflow, but at least we have extended our boundary to certain levels to one or two BUs, right? So you need to have that patience because this all goes through the journey, right? When you talk about journey, there will be a suffering, right? There will be a time when you feel that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, right? I'm not getting a support from people, but it all takes time. So you need to have a patience. You need to have perseverance to what you are doing it, right? And if you have to pause for some time, you pause, think, retrospect, and then again they take to the next level, right? So that is very important. And then we see that after 2 or 3 plug fest, people started seeing values of it, right? That what value it is bringing to their BU, right? Testing their products as an interop, right? And then now we have become a corporate initiative. So that way it's very important, right? Any journey, it is the milestones which you are going to cross. Sometimes you will fail, but you have to sit back, retrospect, and come back again, right? That's very, very important.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we have a question from Runa. How do we network with people during our journey? Sorry, I dragged this chat window way too far. Journey of entrepreneurship without spamming. So, you know, oftentimes we'll get requests, you know, from people we don't know, you know, asking us for, you know, things or wanting to connect with us. So have you found an effective way to do networking during your entrepreneurship journey where you felt that there was value add on both sides?
That's true. See, networking is very, very important, but it has to be a healthy networking, right? So now if you see in any journey, in intrapreneurship or entrepreneurship, right, the networking is very, very important. Your core network and your extended network, right? So And now there are a lot of things like in social media, right? The LinkedIn, Facebook, lot of their platforms, right, which give you options to network with the people. But you have to be very sure that you are networking with the positive people, right, who can get you the positive energy in whatever you are doing it, right? And then you have to see what is there for you, right, with that network, and what is there for the other side, right? So there has to be a transparency, trust, and the positive outcome for any networking. But networking, it's very, very important, very important.
I would also add too, Global Tech Women has a Facebook group with nearly 12,000 members. And I think the best way to network is to take what you are knowledgeable about or what you are interested in and sharing it with others. And if everyone does that, then we all have value that we're adding to the conversation. And so you start to build a reputation as being a person who understands something or knows something in particular. And that way, when you share those traits, people will come to you and ask you questions. And then it's an opportunity for you to understand where their strengths are and to build a strong network versus just reaching out to people just because you think it would be a good idea to be connected to them. So I'm a big believer in trying to always add value, making sure that I am trying. There's this Zig Ziglar says you can get what you want if you help enough other people get what they want. And so I think if you follow that course, you will find great success in networking.
Very true. Very true.
All right. Well, I guess there isn't any other questions. I really enjoyed this presentation. I think it's such an important thing, especially for women in India in particular, whom I've worked with for a number of years now. I think there's a lot of creativity and innovation in women. They're very, very smart and intelligent and just driven. And so I'm imagining, and I've told many people this, that the next Bill Gates or Steve Jobs is going to be a woman in India. There's no doubt about it in my mind. So I think that you're on that course, and you're going to help a lot of other women see the potential of being entrepreneurs or taking the leap and being an entrepreneur. I think it's a critical time and an important one for women in India.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jana.
All right. Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap up. The recording will be available. It's actually late here, so it will probably be in the morning. So give me about 12 hours. But at some point in the morning for me, I will definitely have it up on the website, and we'll be sharing it with my friends and colleagues as well on the Global Tech Women group. So if you're not a member, you should definitely come over and join us. All right. With that, thank you so much. Wonderful having you on this conference. Really appreciate all the time and energy you put into this.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Diana.
All right. Take care, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye-bye.